Welcome to Talking with Talamantes and Titus, a biweekly town hall conducted via Zoom, where our student government leadership can share current happenings and reports. I'm Chief of Staff Hannah Rhymes, and tonight we're going to be talking about scholarships, ASUW elections, strategic scenario planning, and program reviews. We are going to leave some time at the end for questions. You can submit questions by typing them into the chat in the Zoom room or leaving a comment on our Facebook live stream. If you are in the Zoom room, you can also unmute yourself and ask a question during the open forum section. We're going to go ahead and get things started by turning things over to Chief of Legislative Affairs, Hunter Swilling, who is going to chat with y'all about ASUW scholarships that are currently opening.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. As Hannah said, I'm Chief of Legislative Affairs here at ASUW, which basically means I'm in charge of a whole bunch of administrative stuff and keeping track of the legislative branch. And I'll be talking to you about ASUW scholarships. So each year, ASUW gives out tens of thousands of dollars to UW students in the form of scholarships. We offer 7 different scholarships. And if you're interested in more information, you can find it on ASUW's website. And we'll also go over some of information about each scholarship that we offer and learn how you can apply for some free money, which everyone loves. All right, our first scholarship that we'll talk about is the Charlotte Hearn Davis Scholarship. The Charlotte Hearn Davis Scholarship is specifically for students who are involved in the First Year Senate. The First Year Senate is one of the bodies that serves freshmen and first-year transfer students. So all members of that body are free to apply to this scholarship, and it's awarded based on community involvement and leadership. If you want to apply, you can find the application on Weil Scholarships or by following the link on the top of the page where the title is. That is a hyperlink, and applications are due February 28th. The next scholarship we have is the James C. Hurst Scholarship. This is awarded to a student who has demonstrated leadership and commitment to issues surrounding diversity and inclusion on the University of Wyoming, and to students who have given back in palpable ways to these students and to these vital areas. Students must be a member of one or more of the following ethnic groups: American Indian or Alaskan Native, Asian American or Pacific Islander, Black or African American, Hispanic, Mexican American, or Latinx, or any other underrepresented ethnic group on campus. Applications, again, are due February 28th, and you can find out more information by clicking the hyperlink. We also have the ASUW College Leadership Scholarship. This is a pretty broad scholarship. Any student is free to apply, any current UW student, and it's based on demonstrated leadership and involvement on campus during your time here at UW. It can be formal or informal leadership. For example, you can be the leader of a student organization or a representative in ASUW, but you can also just be an informal mentor to first-year students or tons of other other types of leadership that you can demonstrate here on campus. Any current student can apply, and it's a great way to just show your leadership and involvement and get some financial compensation for that and help you afford your school so you can continue giving back to your community. Applications are due February 28th. We also have the High School Leadership Scholarship. Much like the College Leadership Scholarship, this is for current high school students who have committed to attending UW in the fall. It's for students who have shown excellent leadership skills while in high school and plan to continue doing so when they're in college. So any current high school student is welcome to apply. And again, just like the others, the application is due February 28th, and you can find out more by clicking on the hyperlink. The ASUW Service Learning Scholarship is the next scholarship that we'll be discussing. This scholarship is specifically for students who have engaged in community service and volunteering during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. If you volunteered or given back to your community in any way during these very trying times, you're eligible for this scholarship. So, like the others, it's a great way to get some financial compensation and help you continue to give back to your community in these vital times where so many people are in need of help. Applications are due February 28th, and the way in which you can take volunteering or assisting your community can be very broad. For example, you can volunteer at a food share pantry or a hospital, or you can just help out some students who need some mentoring or something. It's very broad definitions of volunteering. We also have the Opportunity for Excellence Scholarship, and this is our broadest scholarship. We at ASUW know that college is expensive and getting more expensive every year. And especially during these times, a lot of students have trouble affording college. So that's why we have the scholarship to help cover any unmet financial need for students. There's no other qualifications except for a minimum of a 2.0 GPA and the requirement to fill out an essay. and send in your transcript. If you have any unmet financial need, this is an excellent way of getting some extra money to help pay for college and stay in school so you can focus on academics instead of having to work. Every student, undergraduate and graduate, is eligible to apply, and applications are due February 28th. And then finally, for the last scholarship we'll be discussing, the AHW Child Care Assistance Scholarship. This is for AHW students who would be considered non-traditional students insofar as they have a child, and to help them afford childcare or any other sort of financial unmet need that they might have. For example, any UW student who has a child is eligible to apply to this scholarship, and it's a really great way to give back to some of the parents in our community who are struggling, who might be struggling with both affording college, attending college with their schoolwork, and raising a child all at the same time. This scholarship is not currently open, but we did receive about 40 applications from this last semester, and it will open again in fall of 2021. And then finally, how do you apply to these excellent scholarships? Well, you can apply through WILE scholarships, which you can access through your WileWeb account. When you go to the student application and you just sign in like normal, you can even just Google WILE scholarships and there it'll appear and you can just log in like normal. There'll be a list of general scholarships that you can apply for that are recommended to you, and you click on the one you want and then you can apply. You can also follow the links at each of the previous slides, which will take you directly to the WILE scholarships page in question. The applications are due February 28th, and they really don't take long to apply. You only need your transcript, an unofficial copy of your transcript, that is. Generally, you need to write some form of essay, about 500 or 750 words, and you need just some basic other information about yourself, like where you attended high school and stuff, if you're applying for the high school college, or if you're applying for the high school scholarship. So don't miss out on these unique opportunities. It's literally free money. And take, for example, if you get a $1,000 scholarship and it took you 1 hour to apply, it's like being paid $1,000 an hour, which is an excellent deal. So that's our WILE scholarships that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hunter, for sharing that information with us. We're going to go ahead and switch gears and pass things off to Vice President Titus, who's going to share some vital information about the upcoming ASUW elections.
Thank you, Hannah. I'm happy to talk to you all about elections once again. I will keep reminding you about elections and encourage you to spread the word as far as possible until the applications close. So just an overview of AHW elections. That URL right there is where you can find all the information that I'm going to cover and that you should share with anyone who has questions about elections. How our Senate is structured is we have 32 total Senate seats, and it's allocated by college proportional to the enrollment. So College of Arts and Sciences has the most seats, and then Hobb, College of Law, and the SER only have 1 seat, for example. And if you're interested in running for president and vice president, they run on a ticket together. So you'll have to find a buddy and agree upon your platforms and submit your application together. Elections happen every year in the spring. So Riley, myself, and all the other senators will be leaving office this April, and then maybe you will be coming into office in the inauguration. No previous AHW experience is required to run in the elections, even for president and vice president. The only thing that are required is a 2.0 GPA, which is also known as good academic standing, no student code of conduct violations, and at least 24 credit hours earned for Senate seats and 60 credit hours for Pres and VP tickets. So here's just an overview of the step-by-step process that you need to know to run in the elections. So go to that URL that I shared on the previous slide, review the AHW bylaws and the elections code and everything that you're signing on to by joining AHW. You can attend one of our candidate outreach events, which includes this event, and ask your questions and get them answered. You can also click the link to submit your application, which is also known as your intent to run once you're ready to apply. There is a mandatory candidate information orientation session that you'll have to attend on March 12th, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. And then you get to launch your campaign, cast your votes, results are announced, and then we have the first Senate meetings and inaugurations in early May. So I'll cover a couple important dates of the timeline for this elections for this academic year. So first and foremost, February 24th is our very first elections outreach event. It is HW speed dating, and this is basically a two-way Q&A event where you can get to know members who are currently in the roles that you might be interested in. Although this is taking place during elections, we will have members from the executive and judicial branch, so you can see all the different ways that you can get involved within AHW. This event is intended to be an overview of AHW and what all the roles do, and then you can get to know people in AHW and see if it would be a good fit for you. And the next, drawing your attention to March 3rd, which is our Campaigning 101 event. Launching a campaign can be one of the most daunting tasks of running in the elections. So Riley and I will be breaking down some campaigning strategies and what we did to successfully gain our offices. And then we have March 9th, 10th, and 11th, why you should run in the AHW elections. We'll be going over what it means to be within AHW, what the benefits are, such as networking, professional development, peer support, and so on. And then the number one date that you need to know if you are planning on running for Senate outside of these events is March 12th. That's when the applications are due, and they're due at 8 a.m. So make sure you get those applications in by March 12th at 8 a.m. Because later that day, we'll be having the mandatory candidate orientation. Basically, we just need to go over some rules with you all and let you know what you need to abide by on campus when you're campaigning and the other various events that we'll be holding. And then, of course, the AHW elections are held on 8 a.m. on April 12th until 5 p.m. on April 14th. And all voting takes place online. So wherever you are at, you can participate in the elections and encourage all your friends to vote and get involved.
Thank you so much for sharing those updates, Courtney. We are going to go ahead and transition over to reports and communications, and we have quite a few updates to share with you, starting with 2-13 program reviews, and I'm going to turn things over to Riley to discuss that. And Riley, it does seem that your mic is muted.
Oh my goodness. Sorry, everybody. Thanks for that catch, Hannah. I was just saying, welcome everybody. Myself and Vice President Titus will be going over the 2-13 program review process and the strategic scenario planning, which I'm sure you all have seen plenty of emails about just this past year. So we wanted to walk you through what that process looks like, how certain programs were selected to be up for elimination, and what that review process looks like moving forward, and how it coincides with the strategic scenario planning that the university is going to be doing in the coming months. So what is 2-13, a number that we've seen in plenty of UW communications? Well, it's a university regulation that oversees the elimination of academic programs. So this is a policy that essentially governs how the university is allowed to eliminate academic programs, and how those academic programs are chosen based on a set of criteria that's laid out in the 2-13 UniReg. And once that is initiated by the Provost of Academic Affairs, that then starts the process of selecting programs to be reviewed for elimination. And from there, the UniReg basically just spells it out how it does this through this multi-step process that I've laid out on this slide. So first, Academic Affairs will initiate the process. So this can be through a memo notification to the deans and directors that they're going to start looking at different programs up for elimination. And so the UniReg says that it should be early enough in the year so that this process can have time to work. And there's also lays out different reasons the provost can call upon programs to be eliminated. And in this case, it was for budget reductions. And so secondly, the next process, Academic Affairs will build a proposal that outlines why they are putting a program up for elimination. And you can't really just select a program for elimination. The university regulation spells out a lot of criteria as to what should go into this proposal, so programs are aware of why this decision is being made. Some criteria there is in there are things like financial data that's relevant to the program, admissions, enrollment, and graduation data, describing the anticipated effects of how the elimination would impact the university or other units. I won't walk through all of the criteria because it is quite thorough, but once Academic Affairs is kind of done selecting those programs based on that criteria, they will then submit the proposal and let academic units know that they have 60 days to respond. And so I believe that moves us to step 4, which is notification of the department, and then step 5 from there, department's response to the proposal. So they have a chance to respond if they agree or disagree with the recommendation. And so this is really a chance where programs get to make a recommendation on their own if it should be eliminated, while other programs can be recommended to be absorbed into one another. So this is really a chance where those programs can give the university all that information and data as to why they feel a particular way about those proposals. And so within those 60 days, they will submit that back to academic affairs. And then we reach step 6, which is a committee that will gather to review the initial proposal. And this was the committee that myself and Vice President Titus had served on to really review the response documents as well as the initial proposal that came from academic affairs. And so the program review committee met several weeks ago, and we initiated an intense process where we started to review all of these programs that were up for elimination. We were asked to fill out a questionnaire for each program that had, I think, about 23 different questions on how does each program meet certain criteria for the university. So they looked up how the program can meet criteria such as President Seidel's 4 pillars, the mission and the strategic plan of the university, and how it ultimately served the university in the long term. And so once we filled out those questionnaires, we reconvened to discuss the criteria and see where the committee came on a consensus. And from there, we made it a decision on our recommendations, which we later gave to the provost. So I believe that is step 7, which was review the committee, submits recommendations to the provost. And then from there, which is step 8, action by the provost and the board, or the president and the board of trustees will be taken. Could you go to the next slide? So this I have just laid out in the process that concluded the programs that are up for elimination, and that will be other programs that are moved to the portfolio review. And I'll explain that in a second. But the Board of Trustees did approve on Wednesday the proposal and the recommendations from the committee about which program should be eliminated and which one should move forward. And so before I kind of explain what portfolio review means, if you all do want to read the full report as to why some of these other programs were moved to a different committee or why these ones are eliminated, I just laid out a few different steps that you could do it. If you're like me and don't really use URLs, you can go to Google and search UYO Board of Trustees 2021 supplemental material. At their public sessions, they usually come up with a bunch of different supplemental material that they're voting on, so people in the public can kind of watch and see how the decisions are being made and why. And so from there, you can click the first link because that is the supplemental material document for the meeting on Wednesday, so yesterday, and you can head to page 5. And from there, you will see the memo from the provost about the process that 213 went through, as well as the recommendation that was made from the committee. So you can look at all the data that we looked at, as well as the recommendations that we made to the provost and why. So finally, before I can give you all a little sneak peek of the portfolio reviews. Portfolio reviews is a group that will be meeting that is in line and kind of working with the strategic planning of the university. Courtney, I'll give it over to you to just kind of explain the process and how the strategic portfolio review committee kind of works within all these other committees that the university is convening.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Riley. So like Riley mentioned, you probably have heard of the strategic planning groups, and I'll show you the UW communication that was sent out about these. We received a couple questions about these within HW, so I wanted to take the time to go over them and explain how these groups actually relate to the process that Riley just laid out. So on the previous slide, the list of groups that were moved to portfolio review actually get moved to this group right here, the strategic portfolio review group. And this group is informed and affected by the strategic scenario planning group, which is the group that Riley and I sit on. And the strategic scenario planning group is basically the advisory board that will make the final recommendations based on the data that we get from all of these other groups that I'll talk about in a minute. So as it says in the slide, it lists to various internal and external constituencies, and it will recommend UW's future direction. So in this group, we're really having big picture conversations about the future of the university, what our priorities are, and what makes UW unique, where we need to invest, and where we could potentially have some cost savings. So as you can see, those big picture conversations do inform the portfolio review group, and all of these groups do have decent student representation on them. Like I mentioned, Riley and I and another executive sit on the SSP larger group. On the portfolio review group, there are 6 student representatives, and I will put in detail more of the student representatives for each group. So the next group is the Blue Sky Thought Leadership Group, and this group is kind of just to keep the rest of the group's ideas fresh. Their job is to think radically and as big as they possibly can about what UW could possibly achieve. They're pretty much tasked with, getting out a little bit of the budget constraints that we're dealing with and just thinking about what UW should stand for and what we need to invest in an ideal world. So they are really not limited by the current budget constraints or cutting programs or anything like that. They are really the optimists of this bunch and are challenged with keeping our ideas fresh and making sure that we are staying true to UW's mission and what students, staff, and faculty want from this institution. So as you can see in the diagram, they're kind of set off separate from the other groups, but they do come back and inform the overall SSP group, which is the one that will be making the final recommendations. And then another group or groups, I should say, that influence the overall SSP group and our recommendations are the pillar groups. And the pillars are referring to President Seidel's 4 pillars that he instituted, meaning that this is the way that he thinks UW should be trending, and this is what UW should be investing in and where we should be seeing growth. So the first pillar group is the digital pillar group, and there are about 4 to 6 student representatives on each of these groups. And the next pillar group is the inclusion group or the inclusivity group. And the inclusivity group is challenged with seeing how UW can be more inclusive. And of course, the digital group is challenged with seeing how UW can be more digital. Obviously, the COVID-19 pandemic offered us a really unique opportunity to speed up that digital advancement, but this group is going to make sure that some of these advancements that we made were going to stay long-term. And the next pillar group is the interdisciplinary pillar group. So how can departments on campus re-strategize and better work together? And then finally, the 4th pillar group is the entrepreneurial or the innovation group. And these groups, like I said, all build out the 4 pillars and what President Saida has laid out for us, but also putting these ideas into practice and really nailing down what this will look like for UW, putting some policy on paper, some plans for buildings and structures, and most importantly, identifying funding for it. So this graphic overall shows you that the SSP group will be the one making final recommendations, and there are 3 student reps on there, but this overall SSP group is informed by 5 other groups of people who have about 4 to 6 student reps on each of them respectively. And on top of that, there will be listening sessions, which I will discuss in just a moment. But if you are interested in reading more about these groups and what they mean and who all are on them, I welcome you to look at the UW Communications announcement that was sent out. And it's titled this, and you can find it on Google if you need to. It explains each of these groups that I went over, what their purpose is, and Seidel in his own words explaining why he set these groups up. Also, there are all the members and the chairs of each of these digital pillar groups, or I'm sorry, these 4 pillar groups. So if you feel so inclined to reach out to anyone on these groups or the chairs to ask questions and submit your feedback, definitely feel free to do that. There will also be listening sessions that the overall SSP group will be doing over the next 2 or 3 weeks, and these listening sessions will be targeted at alumni, staff, faculty, and students. And what you need to know for students is there's going to be a listening session tentatively scheduled for March 8th at 6:30 p.m. Of course, there'll be plenty more announcements coming out about this once this has been finalized, but I wanted to let you know, you all know now. And then March 16th at 7 p.m., the SSP group will also be hearing from our student senate, and students at large are welcome to attend our senate meetings. As always, they're always open to the public. So if that's another time or day you'd be interested in attending, definitely feel free. And kind of the purpose of these listening sessions is to find out from students, why did you choose UW, or why did you, enroll here? Or why did you choose UW over some other schools that you might have applied to? And what do you feel like is missing during your college experience here at UW? You can also think big picture, like 5 to 10 years down the road, when your siblings are attending UW, or even your children further down the line. What do you want UW to look like? And what do you want UW to be able to provide for them? And what do you treasure most about your time here at UW, and what makes UW unique? These questions are really getting at the heart of what the SSP group and all of these pillar groups want to know, so that in these time, this time of budget cuts, which is scary and it's uncertain, we can make sure that we're prioritizing and investing in areas that are most important to this institution, the students who attended, and the students who will be attending in the future, right? So definitely get involved in this process. Reach out to Riley and I, when in doubt, if you have questions or concerns or want to know more about how to get involved, because the more student input that we can get in this process, the better reflective it will be of your wants and needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney, Riley, and Hunter, for all the time that you spent so far on this episode talking about these extremely important topics. We are going to go ahead and transition into the open forum portion of this episode. And just as a reminder, if you joined us late, for those in the Zoom room, you can unmute yourself and ask a question, or type a question in the chat. Or if you're watching the Facebook live stream, you can leave a comment on the live stream with your question. And I do already have a couple of questions so far. And the first one is actually directed at Hunter. And that question is, if I have questions about ASUW scholarships, about eligibility or how much, who can I reach out to?
Yeah, that's a great question, Hannah. So there are two primary people who are working on the scholarships. There's me. You can reach me at my email at aswexec9@uyu.edu. So that's ASUWEXC9@uyu.edu. You can also just type in Chief of Legislative Affairs into the little email booklet and my name will pop up. And then we also have our graduate assistant, Katie Wiebe, who will also be a great resource for you in looking for scholarship information. So if you're looking for any sort of that, that's who you should contact.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Hunter. I have another question, and this is directed towards both Riley and Courtney. For those programs that have already been eliminated, the ones that were listed on the slide earlier, are those programs just immediately gone, or will there still be a few semesters before they're formally ended?
Hey, Riley, I think you're muted.
Thanks, Courtney. I was gonna say I'd have to double check the report document that I referenced to you all to see which programs are in the process of being sunsetted since they're eliminated. However, there are some programs that were eliminated just immediately because some of them hadn't had students in the programs for a few years. Courtney, I don't know if you have anything to add, so I apologize if that's a bit vague.
Yeah, I would add that the university has a responsibility to teach out. So if there are any students currently enrolled in any of those programs, students who are enrolled right now will get their programs finished, their minors, majors received. But there were some programs who hadn't received students in several years, and those will be eliminated quicker than those other ones.
Gotcha. Thank you both for the clarification on that. I do have one more question, so we'll consider this a last call. If you have a question, unmute yourself in the Zoom or drop a chat to me or leave a comment on the Facebook live stream. Our final question is for Hunter, once again. After I submit my application for a scholarship, how soon will I know if my application is accepted or rejected?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thank you, Hannah. So all of the scholarships, as you saw, are due on February 28th. So after that, we will start meeting in our committees and looking over and reviewing the scholarships. So the way these scholarships work is that each of them is decided by a group of students and faculty and staff members who decide the eventual recipients of these scholarships. We have given ourselves until the 31st of March to finish these reviews and to finish and make our final decision. And after that, we will let you know as soon as possible, probably by April 1st or so, if you have received the scholarship And then after that, it will take the Office of Financial Aid maybe a week or two, possibly more, to get the scholarship actually into your account. So you'll know by very early April if you got the scholarship and get the money by probably about mid-April.
Thank you so much for that information, Hunter. All right, seeing that we don't have any more questions, we can go ahead and bring this episode to a close. So I just wanted to say again, thank you all for joining us for this installment of Talking with Talamantes and Titus. We hope that you'll join us for our next episode on March 4th, at same time and same Zoom link. ACW Student Government is working for you and with you, and that's why we're so excited to always share updates with the Cowboy community. We hope to see you all next time, and go Pokes.